Well, so far in the Champions League knockouts, we've made our way past Real Madrid and Arsenal with Benfica today. It's the semi-finals where we take on Bayer Leverkusen for a chance to defend our title. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 108 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Benfica. I hope you're doing well and come up day. The two-legged semi-final of the Champions League here in 2034, and we take on Bayer Leverkusen, a team which, if we go back to the very start of when this season did tick over, we'll actually drag it up here, seeing as that will be a lot quicker, did knock us out of the Club World Cup in the quarterfinal. So if you guys are looking forward to that, but it comes off the back of the quarterfinal yesterday where we did take on Arsenal. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Also, pretty good youth been taken amongst those games we did play as well, but thankfully got through that relatively comfortably 4-1. Since then, we've just played a couple of games too in League of Portugal. First up, picked up a 5-0 winner over Boa Vista. Then, though, we played the second leg of our semi-final in the Portuguese Cup against Anadia. As you can see above the first leg of that Real Madrid tie, picked up a 3-1 win there away from home and backed it up with a 5-0 win with a strong team out for the second leg of that semi-finals, and then have made our way through very comfortably to the Portuguese Cup final, which hopefully will give us a chance at redemption for getting knocked out in the very first round of that competition last season. But we do take on Sporting in the final, so we've at least got something to come back for in tomorrow's episode, even if we don't get past Bayer Leverkusen here in the semis of the Champions League. But then we did lose to Braga, but with a heavy rotation saving up our big boys for this Champions League semi that we are about to play. And obviously, it's not too important because we already wrapped up the league before we came back for yesterday's episode. So it pretty much means we can get stuck straight into business with this Champions League semi-final in today's episode and hopefully get some revenge on Bayer Leverkusen for the fact they knocked us out of that Club World Cup at the start of the season, where of course our right backs had shockers, one of them getting a red card. So to be fair, that was a pretty big influence there in that 3-2 defeat we did suffer. But Bayer Leverkusen were the best team in the Bundesliga the year we left Young Regensburg. Off the back of that, they've been there or thereabouts, but not quite picked up the titles. A little bit of fall off there for Niko Kovac's men, but they are a strong team out of Germany. But hopefully we can get past the likes of Real Madrid and Arsenal, two teams right on the top of their leagues by big margins. Hopefully this is a team that might be a little bit more beatable here, even in the semi-finals of the Champions League. We have got some injury concerns though. It's just one. Min Hong-sun is still out. That twisted ankle hasn't quite recovered, but he's only expected to be out a further 1 to 2 days. So hopefully he might come back in time for the second leg. And if we make it that far, the final as well. So quite hopeful our star striker from South Korea, of course still quite new here, having purchased him from Tottenham Hotspur to replace Piskunov, might be fit for the second leg, or at least a bench impact part in that one. And also maybe a Champions League final if we can make it that far. But apart from that, and pretty good nick heading into the semi-finals of the Champions League this season. On the other side of the draw, it is currently Man City with a 3-1 lead over Ange Postecoglou's PSG. So we'll see if we get the chance to take on one of those two teams in tomorrow's episode. But really, on paper, this doesn't look too bad a draw for us here in the semi-finals. Hopefully can back up those results we've picked up so far in the Champions League knockouts this season and make our way through to a second straight final and hopefully make it back-to-back Champions Leagues. Albeit, as I was saying during yesterday's episode, not too sure then if we'd actually need to continue to save too much more. Not too sure if there's too much point trying to chase a Premier League title. You guys still let me know in the comments if you think that's something that we should be doing, but hopefully can get past here by Leverkusen, a little bit of revenge for that Club World Cup at the start of the season, as well as our time back at Young Regensburg, and make our way into this final against one of PSG or Man City, who, to be fair, are two teams that we have beaten over the last couple of years in the Champions League here at Benfica. Now, in terms of our team, there's one other change apart from Medina up front for the injured Sun, when it comes at left back. Fabio Ronaldo is not on a heavy workload, which is not the case with Emmanuel Nardi. So that's the reason we've made a change here at left back. Let's hope he can step up and do a decent job. To be fair, for a fair chunk of last season, he was our first choice in these Champions League games, so definitely shouldn't miss out on too much there with Ronaldo starting at left back. Let's hope Medina can score some goals here, because he's not been in too great a form since coming into the team ever since Hong Sun did get injured. So quite hopeful that Medina maybe can find some form. Would be quite typical if he did, just as Sun is about to come back. But an early free kick here in our favour. We're also worth knowing this first leg is the home one, so really want a good result here from this leg. An early chance there for Hadland, but that one comes off the inside of the woodwork and doesn't quite sneak its way into the back of the net. So that's a big chance early that we can't quite take by Leverkusen. Actually going to get a chance here to build their way out from back, and so far are doing quite a good job. Dorgalier starts to make his way forward there inside the box. He also takes on a shot, but thankfully that one's pretty safely at Miguel at the near post. But I think our chance there a bit better. Unfortunately, the woodwork there did come to the rescue of Bayer Leverkusen. And now Dorgalier with a good chance that time. The woodwork saves us. The two very similar chances for both teams now. So I think 0-0 is pretty fair, but definitely could be 1-0 in favour of either team. So I think we'll take that, getting a bit lucky off the back of that chance, which unfortunately didn't go away in the first couple of minutes there through Jeremiah Hadland. Now Bayer Leverkusen are starting to get on the front foot, which is concerning in our home league. But thankfully Parola just puts that one wide. Quite a good centre-back / wing-back there for Bayer Leverkusen. He can be quite dangerous from set pieces at early stages, despite the fact stats-wise it looks like we're the team on the front foot here. Not quite seeing it in the match engine. Now Sabio with a chance here again for Bayer Leverkusen from set piece. Puts that one far post, but thankfully that one does just go wide. So early chances here for Bayer Leverkusen to take a lead. And at the half-hour mark, hopefully we can finally kick into gear off the back of that opening chance we did have since then. It's been all Bayer Leverkusen, thankfully. Just keep the ball there as it looked like they might disrupt us. And now going to try and make our way here back out from our goalkeeper. Kalafatoglu just keeps that ball on salvo. Nice ball there through to Jeremiah Hadland, who this time will put that one away. Not too sure what was happening there with the Bayer Leverkusen defence, but that ball there from Monsalvo, an absolute ripper, and we do take a 1-0 lead, which to be fair, based on what we're seeing, is a little bit fortunate, but stats-wise, it has been us ever so slightly on the front foot, a little bit iffy there defensively from Bayer Leverkusen. Nice ball from Monsalvo, but not too sure if Hadland should have gotten behind that easily. Thankfully this time he puts it on target. So 1-0 lead here, 15 minutes shy of half-time. Let's now hope we can hold on to it and maybe extend that gap a little bit more, just like we did when we took on Arsenal in yesterday's episode. But that'll be all she wrote for the first half of this game. To be fair, most players out there are doing pretty well as well, so don't think we need to make any changes at this point. But thankfully, Bayer Leverkusen not quite taking their chances, mostly from set pieces, and we took that one there through Jeremiah Hadland at the half-hour mark. So 1-0 lead here in the first leg of this Champions League semi-final. To be fair, stats-wise, actually now a quite even game. So very fortunate to have 1-0 lead here in this one. Kalafatoglu at left wing, about to drop down, it looks like, to a little bit of a deep yellow card. But the first sub here, Ronaldo picks up a yellow card. So Nadi will have to come off the bench. Let's hope he doesn't get injured on that heavy workload. And now just shy of the hour mark, got a throw in here, close enough to inside of the final third. Play it back there to Nianzu. Now Fortea starts to find some space here down that right-hand side, back to Castillejo. Monsalvo, who got the assist for that first goal. That ball did look like they're a little bit undercooked, but thankfully just able to keep hold of it then by do disrupt. But thankfully, back on the attack. Lovely ball there from Enrique for Kalafatoglu, but he might have been offside. The assistant referee there put his flag up. That little hesitation in the shot going over to the celebration, and indeed he was offside, so it's still only 1-0 in our favour. Nice vision there from Enrique, but unfortunately, Kalafatoglu is just a straight offside, so still a 1-0 lead. And Bayer Leverkusen are now starting to get on the front foot a little bit stats-wise, albeit XG in this game is favouring us, so it's quite an even one. And Fortea does pick up a yellow card, nearly helped us there in the build-up to that goal. We'll take him off for Pretty, and also we've got Hadland, who's dropped down to red heart, so Trincao can come on in shadow striker. Also, Kalafatoglu is still looking a little bit average out there on a 6.5, might drop down pretty shortly to a red heart, but we'll see what we need to do with our last couple of subs, and we might need to make those now because Kalafatoglu does indeed drop down to a red heart. So Rodriguez can come on for him. Castillejo is on a bit of a deep yellow heart, but to be fair, Medina is again struggling, so Aventura is on the bench for this game. Let's see if he can do something in the Champions League. So far, he's been pretty good in the league compared to Medina. We'll see if he can step it up here in the Champions League and help us grab a cushion goal lead. So Castillejo has just dropped down to red hard. You have to live with that now in the remainder of this game. And nice work there too from Aventura to win that ball back for us. Nice 1-2 there between him and I dare say that was Rodriguez, but unfortunately someone offside and also missed the target. So can't quite make it 2-0, which will be a lot more comfortable than what it's since currently at only 1-0. That would be a little bit more of a narrow scoreline than what we've got so far here out of these home leagues in the Champions League knockouts. We just start here to time waste with 10 minutes to go off the back of getting that going. There is a highlight by Leverkusen putting some pretty big pressure on us here as we try and make our way out from back. Monsalvo, shocking pass there. It does mean that Leverkusen can get on the ball, but thankfully Rodriguez gets that one back for us. So a little bit lucky there, and now Trincao somehow keeps that ball there down our left-hand side, and this time we'll put it away from a tight angle. Not too sure how he's put that one through Urbig, but thankfully he has. We've got a cushion goal lead in this first league, and that could be very important going away to Leverkusen for that second leg. No idea there how he's got through Viper of all people. And also Urbig, that's some pretty average work there in goal. From that angle, he almost got nutmegged for some reason. So quite fortunate that we've scored that goal. And now with only 5 minutes left, time for us here to time waste even more, because certainly feels a little bit lucky that we've got a cushion goal lead in what has been a pretty even game. Some more time wasting and also chuck those wing backs onto fullbacks as we usually do. Let's see if we can maybe make it 3-0 here as we see this corner. Rodriguez with a chance, but this time Urbig does come up with a big save, as we saw him do so often when we were back at Jan Regensburg in these games against Bayer Leverkusen. But it's been a very even game, thankfully, just a bit more efficient with the chances that we've gotten at times. Bayer Leverkusen's defence was a little bit average, and thankfully we make the most of that and pick up a 2-0 win. Hudland in the first half and Trincao late on in the second. So big goals there from the players that were playing in that shadow striker role. Let's hope now we can hold on the 2-goal advantage and make our way to Leverkusen and make our way into back-to-back Champions League finals. So a little bit of a lucky 2-goal win for us there in that first league against Bayer Leverkusen. I've played one game off camera since then without the rotation in Liga Portugal. A 0-0 draw. So for the rotation, not doing too well in the last couple of outings, but of course lost that invincible record all the way back in February, so it doesn't really matter, especially as already the league champions. But coming back here just briefly for an injury update, Min Hong Sun, he is back. He can handle 75 minutes of football, but still is quite injury prone. So what we're going to do here for the second leg of this Champions League semi is start him off the bench. So it does mean that still Medina will be up front, which is a little bit of a concern. He's really struggled to score goals ever since Son did get injured, but also now he comes in after being on a heavy workload in that first leg. So really, it's our best 11, just Son on the bench instead of Medina coming back from that injury, which hopefully might be okay by the time we make our way through to a Champions League final, if we can hold on here to our 2-goal lead. But Leverkusen away can be pretty tricky. I'm pretty sure that we actually got bumped here a couple of occasions back with Jan Regensburg. Let's hopefully not suffer the same sort of fate here with the strong Benfica team, who will look to get the chance to defend their Champions League title. But here are Bayer Leverkusen still sticking with a 4-2-3-1 and pretty similar lineup to what we did see in that first league, where they did look quite threatening early from set pieces. Let's hope this time that Nianzou and Renan can win a few more balls there inside the box. But in terms of us, the only change, Nadi does come back in at left back, as I mentioned before, this time not on a heavy workload with our rotation, having played midweek, not getting the job done. But as I said, doesn't really matter with the situation in Liga Portugal. So hopefully here can just make sure we don't lose this one by 2 goals. If we can score one early, that would be very nice indeed. Just make sure that hopefully we can put this one to bed and make our way through, it looks like, to take on potentially Man City in a Champions League final. The second leg of that one gets played a day off the back of our one, so still not too sure who would take on in a Champions League final. But we'll wait and see. Got to get through this first. An early highlight here. Going to have to try and make our way here out from that. Miguel, quite cool under pressure, does pick out Nianzou. Castillejo there, put himself there briefly in a tricky spot, but thankfully played it forward. A slide tackle, quite luckily, does fall out there to Forte. So far, we're keeping the ball here a little bit luckily, but getting the job done in the early stages of this second leg. And now Hudland makes his way forward there down that right-hand side, but a bit loose from him, albeit does win that ball back for us. So far, it's all falling in our favour. A good chance there, but it just goes wide. So unfortunately, we can't quite make it 1-0 there. A good early chance. It might have again been for Hudland, but that time can't quite put it away. And now we go down the other end. Gusto is on the ball here from this throw-in for Bayer Leverkusen. We try and scramble it away, but not too well. Savio will float this one. Far post Viper does get a header off, but thankfully that's pretty loopy and not too powerful. Easy save that one for Diogo Miguel. So a decent chance now for both teams, but definitely Bayer Leverkusen in front of their home fans here have got off to a stronger start based on stats. So that's a little bit concerning, albeit just there we have a bit of a boost with something that we don't see. But now we're just over a half hour in, and we've still got our 2-goal lead, which is pretty good. If we can somehow find a way here to score one more, that would be excellent. Nice work there from Castillejo. Just keep us there on the ball. Now Hudland, a nice square there for Maxi Medina. Now, did he stay on side? He might have not, because that seems to be a theme here with our strikers at the moment in this Benfica team. And indeed, he has stayed on side. So Maxi Medina with a huge goal there in the second leg. I thought he was offside. I was waiting for that one to get ruled out because it did look a little bit too good to be true. But Medina, just as soon comes back, finally scores a goal in the Champions League and hopefully puts his tie to bed by making it 3-0, albeit a few minutes later here. It is Leverkusen down the other end, and Lorenzo Parola scores his first goal of the season, and so much for that. They're right back in this tie, still only 2 behind, but to be fair, they are starting to run out of time. No idea there what Miguel's doing in between the sticks, because that's pretty average for a header that's gone about head height. Not too sure there why he did hit the ground, but unfortunately that undoes the Medina goal, which are pretty hard to come by since we've signed him in this save. But thankfully, still a 2-goal lead here in this tie, so it's not all bad XG-wise again. Actually looking a little bit better than Bayer Leverkusen, but apart from that, they are the team with a bit more momentum in this game. And of course, in front of their home fans, let's hope they don't grab an early goal here in the second half, because then that would make things very interesting for the remaining 30 or so minutes they would have in this game. So hopefully can keep them quiet here for at least a good 20 or so minutes here in the second half and make sure we should hold on here to our 2-goal lead. A little bit frustrating that we did concede right off the back of making it 3-0, because I then felt like we had this game pretty well under control, but we conceded from a set piece. They were threatening to do that in the first league as well. This time they put it away. It's a bad pass there, and Hudland can get us on the ball, so hopefully now can take a lead here in the second league. We try and pick out the Kalavatoglu, who does go down, but not blown up for a penalty. And now it's a chance for Leverkusen to try and hit us on the counter-attack. Nadi gets a foot in. Gusto, though, gets it back there for Leverkusen. Some lovely passing just outside the box, but thankfully Ada was offside, so that really was a little bit of a weird highlight. Just trying to worry me. Kind of get the feeling here that FM is going to try and make me think that we're going to bottle this during the second half of the second leg, but this time we are on the attack. Monsalvo there with a shot that it looked like it forced either a great block or a good save out of Bayer Leverkusen. So a good chance there for us to try and actually put this one to bed and grab our 3-goal lead back. Can't quite do it, but thankfully we've now got up to the hour mark. A few players out there aren't going too well, in particular both our wing backs. So we'll bring on here Pretty as well as Renato down our flanks, and also we've got Nyanzu on a 6.5. Let's try Rui Silva at centre back, hopefully being a bit strong in the ear. That might help us here in this game. And also Castillejo on a 6.5 too. Florentino Luis has been in pretty good form during the knockout stages of the Champions League. Let's see what he can do there in place of Castillejo. So quite a few subs there at the hour mark. Even though it's 1-1, doesn't feel like we're actually playing that well, even though the stats are actually now in favour of us. In a free kick here, which we try and take short. Unfortunately, can't quite pick out there. I think it was Silva that we were aiming for there inside the box. Thankfully, when Bayer do try and clear the lines, just able to keep the ball. And Renan goes back to Miguel. Now Silva tries to get us going forward here down this right-hand side, not too much, before playing it back there to Monsalvo. That's a shocking pass there, though, from Florentino Luis. So a chance now for Bayer Leverkusen on the counter-attack. They've got the ball here. They played into the mixer, and Gusto goes down. A poor challenge from Hudland, but Florentino Luis has given the ball away only a couple minutes after coming on, and it results in a penalty. So all of a sudden, Bayer Leverkusen might get right back in this time. Let's hope that Miguel can pull off a save, but unfortunately, he flops and doesn't dive. Otherwise, might have got to that one, but Viper puts it away. So all of a sudden, this is well and truly tight on. We had a 3-0 lead. It's come back to 3-2. So fingers crossed here, we don't bottle things with still just under 20 minutes left here in this one. Now, Kalafitoglu does drop down to red hearts with our final sub. Rodriguez can come on for him. So no game time here for Sung coming back from injury. We'll try and get that going into him in the league if we can make our way forward to a Champions League final. Of course, still have a cup final, and we didn't win that competition last season, so that could be something interesting if we do find a way to bowl this. But fingers crossed that won't be the case. With 10 minutes left here, we'll start to time waste and hopefully kill off the highlights in this game, because we're pretty gutted if we blow this. Even off the back of the 2-0 lead, it wouldn't have been too bad back at Benfica, but a 3-0 lead, that would be pretty bad. So hopefully we don't do that, especially through a silly penalty that we gave away. And now we make our way into the final 5 minutes of this one, time for us here to chuck those wing backs onto fullbacks. Can't quite control my hands here. Let's just hope that we get the job done. We'll slow the tempo down and time waste even more, and that's about all we can do. So hopefully nothing late here in favour of the home team and Bayer Leverkusen. Actually, stats-wise now, we are looking quite a bit more comfortable than they've been. So a little bit disappointing that we're not in front in this game, but as long as we don't concede here in 5 minutes of injury time, it will be okay. And thankfully, that is the case. It's just do enough there to get past Bayer Leverkusen in the semi-finals of the Champions League. That 2-0 win at home, oh so important. That late goal that Trincao scored, which was pretty fortunate, somehow made his way through Viper and also got it past Urbig. A big difference maker, that home league win. Also that early goal to Medina, I'm pretty sure one of the only ones scored in Europe this season, especially since coming here once we saw Piskunov, seeing as he's pretty much only played in the knockouts of this competition. That was massive. Just made sure that those last couple of goals there from Bayer Leverkusen couldn't quite overturn that deficit. We go through 3-2. We'll make our way through this post-match interview and go for today and see who we're going to take on, try and hold onto our Champions League title, if it's Man City or PSG. So we just squeaked by Bayer Leverkusen there in the semi-finals of the Champions League. A little bit of revenge there for that loss in the Club World Cup earlier this season. Going back, here's the result from that first leg of the other semi-final. It was 3-1 to Man City, so a 2-goal lead there. But of course, they were going to Paris for that second leg, a late goal there to Florian Wirtz. Might have given PSG a bit of momentum going into that second leg for Ange Postecoglou's men. Indeed, that was the case, because PSG absolutely wiped the floor with Man City 5-0. So it's a final between us and PSG in the Champions League this season, and PSG are being managed by Ange Postecoglou. So a little bit here of an Anzac Challenge vibe to this year's final in the Champions League, where hopefully we can get one over the Australian and make it back-to-back Champions Leagues here at Benfica. But just like us, they've already wrapped up the league title, so really both teams can kind of rest their key players up until then. Not too sure if they'll have a cup final coming up. Looks like they might have got knocked out of the Coupe de France a little bit early, so it looks like the only big game left this season is that Champions League final. We've actually got a Portuguese Cup final too against Sporting, so maybe that might favour PSG for that Champions League final. A little bit more of a rest for those guys, but we'll come back tomorrow for a double final, as long as that first one doesn't go to extra time or a penalty shootout. Hopefully pick up that Portuguese Cup for the first time by beating Sporting in a circular derby, and also keep hold of the Champions League when we take on Ange's PSG. But that will do it for today's episode. Just do enough there to get past Bayer Leverkusen. If you enjoyed that one, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well until tomorrow for a potentially double final episode with the Portuguese Cup against Sporting and Champions League final against PSG. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.